Hawks lost no admirers with a plucky performance against the undefeated D's, 10 points the final margin. And there were positives aplenty, which we're going to get to right here on another short and sharp edition of the Hawk Talk podcast, designed to preserve my voice. My name is Nick Mason, and Tiz, that was our first week off in a while, and it's good to be back.
Is it, Nick? You sound pretty good.
It's the best I've sounded in a week. Believe it or not, I would not recommend getting COVID.
Yeah, well, the boys did their darndest to try and get you up.
Well, they certainly lifted my spirits. I mean, 10 points is nothing to sneeze at. This is the closest any team has come to knocking off the reigning premiers in some time, and I'm plenty proud of the boys.
Yeah, it was a very good effort. I got worried at halftime and again during the third quarter that they might sort of stop like they did against Sydney. But even with a 5-day break, they ran the game out. They found a way to remain competitive for much of the day, thanks chiefly to some tagging roles against their very good midfielders. And there was one bloke, MVP on the day, Dylan Moore, who was deployed at half-back just to try and give us some run and carry through that area. And didn't he do it incredibly well? He's a revelation now and rightly got highlighted in the media. And there's something about this group that's just developing. There's a confidence about them, even against this wonderful Melbourne side.
They just refuse to lay down. They are not going to take no for an answer, this Hawthorn side. They will play their game style and live and die by it, and it's fantastic to watch when it comes off. I think clearly there's still areas we need to improve on, but God, I'm having a great time enjoying this team. Dylan Moore, as you say, a career-high 33 touches at 81.8% disposal efficiency with one goal, 546 metres gained. I think he did well to give us the kind of drive that we might have had with CJ being available, but alas, we put Dylan Moore back there, and I think he gave us a lot.
Well, yeah, it's the kind of game we'd expect from Bramble a bit, but he looked a bit out of touch. He'll take a couple of weeks, a bit like Impey. He looked out of touch on Monday, and he looked... I noticed they got it into his hands very early in the game. They were trying to really give him some confidence. But, Dylan Moore... I mean, we've got a question from Woz. What are your thoughts on Moore becoming a regular mid and replacing an existing mid so we can bring in and test a new small forward? That could happen. I know he's got an enormous tank, Dylan Moore, as does Finn McGuinness, who we'll speak about in a moment. But they both just ran the whole game out. Now, we've spoken before about how we want a lot more depth in the midfield, and we're starting to see that now. I know people later on are asking when's Wingard going to join the midfield brigade, and he's probably not fit enough either. But, we're just starting to see this, what do you say, when you come up against opposition coaches and you can get a different player like Dylan Moore jumping in there, just gives you an edge, you know. And we've been so similar there with see ball, get ball and handball out to someone who's quicker for a while. It's wonderful to see Dylan Moore develop into this goal-scoring midfielder, which is something we've been wanting for years.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a newfound versatility, and we can throw a couple of curveballs at opposition coaches. As for the midfield and inserting Moore in there, look, that's an experiment that I'm up for, because the midfield, it can't be invulnerable to tampering with. Like, we need to work out what our best mix is, and I think we're all agreed that the best mix is not Warple, O'Meara, Mitchell, and whoever's ruck. Like, you just got to start experimenting with that, and, you know, Dylan Moore could be a fantastic place to continue that.
What do you think of our ruck? Max Lynch obviously couldn't run out the whole game, but he was impressive when he was in there. You noticed when Max Lynch was off because Melbourne got on a bit of a run, and Gawn had a very good game, but we certainly weren't kicking to him every chance we got this time around. And then Callow took a great grab, his first touch, and very, very nice to see that. And he looked like he belonged. He had the physicality for it. A couple of rookie errors and things like that, but that goes with the first gamers. I enjoyed seeing him out there, certainly. But you got to say that the man of the moment, and something I didn't expect, they got out the clamps and they told Finn, hey, you're just clamping down on Langdon, and he only got 9 touches for the day. Incredible.
Yeah, and only 3 uncontested, which is obviously Langdon's game, and Finn McGuinness himself had 12. So I think it was a massive success. And to come in for Harry Morrison as well and perform that role, the Demons were disarmed of a key weapon. And Finn McGuinness, 96% game time, he ran and ran and ran.
About 16k he ran, which is huge.
That's his best performance for the senior side. There's no question of that. He was brilliant. And look, I still have reservations about him. In terms of his disposal efficiency, I feel like I'm nervous when the ball gets to him. But look, he has that in his toolkit. At least the lockdown role, I think he performed that very well. We know he can do that now. And it's great because he's finding his identity in the senior side, which previously he was really struggling with, to be honest.
Well, he just illustrated he was beneficial to the side this time. It's he's kicked a goal and he's had a few moments that looked really good, but he's starting to settle and given a role and something that that does well for his high concentration levels, which is what that took. I mean, to get this bloke who's burned other teams, let's face it, he's absolutely torched other sides. For him to only have 3 uncontested possessions is just terrific and very, very good coaching, because everyone that comes up against Melbourne now are just going to set a bloke the task of stopping Langdon. So James has this question, and this is at the front of our mind. Is this the turning point for Finn? Will he be given games off his ability to keep running and shutting down the most dangerous runners from the opposition? Well, he probably will get games that way, but as you say, he only needs to improve his disposal efficiency, and they'll have to give mind to what he's doing as well, and that's the next step in his progression. He can certainly win his own ball, and his contested possessions are fine. He's got a body that can handle the hits of AFL. So I think this will give him a lot of confidence, and as a young man, he needs confidence. Bredo also asked, will Finn's role on the weekend and how he executed it silence the doubters? Absolutely not. You've already expressed your doubts, Nick.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I mean, one game doesn't make a player.
But don't think Finn would be happy with that performance. He's got very high standards, and he wants to be a much better player than tagging blokes out of the game on the wing. He wants to really influence games off his own boot, and I think he'll get there.
Yeah, that's right. He's got to complement that side of his game now. He's got the defensive thing locked down, pun fully intended, of course. He's got to get more attacking and more damaging in that sense. That's the next step, because we know now off that game in particular against very quality opposition, he's got that in his arsenal. I want to see him in his development, so it's over a number of weeks. It won't happen overnight. I want to see him become more attacking.
So at one point, Oliver threatened to take the game completely away from us, and we saw Sammy go, "Hey, Connor Nash, that is, can you take Oliver out of the game for us?" And he did, which stunned me. I didn't think that was doable, even in that role, that he could get that done. And then similarly, he got asked to take on Petrarca, who, Uze, who is in the box and is well-loved Hawthorn coach. He's relying on these blokes to turn the game for them, and, sometimes they do, but I didn't expect that Nash would be able to sit on them quite as well as he did, and it really underscored how important having Callow brought into the lineup to do some ruck work, along with Max Lynch, and let Nash go back to majority of it, being able to play a midfield role. He did do some rucking, but less said about that, the better. If Ben Brown hadn't got all those free kicks because he just sags and flops, and I mean, Frost got a little bit, you'd have to say he's a bit dumb about it. He doesn't play well against his former side, does he?
No, not really.
So between the ears? I don't know. But as soon as Sicily went on to Brown, it was like he wasn't playing out there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Sicily's 100th game and his first as captain, because we're starting to do a bit of a rotation now in McAvoy's absence, which I think is a great thing. Sicily, long earmarked as a potential captain, got his run this game, and he performed excellently. 26 touches, 631 metres gained, a game-high 13 marks, a game-high 10 intercepts. He's officially asserted himself once again as our best defender. I think, what are we, 7 rounds in? I think there's no question of that now.
There was some phenomenal passing from Sicily too, even under pressure, picking long-range options. And I know he bit off a bit more than he could chew a couple of times, but really, really good. The other bloke, There were a lot of unexpected things in this, but for Koschitzki to kick 4 against that back line, which has held so many teams to very low scores, that's just amazing. And it forces Sammy to find a spot or find a system that works with Cozzy and Mitch Lewis and Jack Gunston, because they all deserve to be in that side.
Yeah, certainly. We have questions about that coming up in just a moment. But between this and last week, Cozzy has inserted himself into the conversation. He covered for Lewis very nicely. He deserves credit for that because, I mean, he had a stuttering start to the season, didn't he? We're wondering, where is he? Is he going to get back? Is there space for him? Well, I think he's answered that. And, he deserves full credit.
He's a different player to Lewis too. You know, he leads straight up at the ball, demands that people either get out of his way or get in his way. I mean, I wouldn't like to be standing there. He's a rough character. I like it. I really do like it.
Well, I want to compare and contrast his game with Ben Brown up the other end, who I felt, frankly, played a very cheap and nasty game for his 4 goals. Cozzy's 4, I thought was a very honourable and strong performance. I was very impressed.
Oh, look, mate, the free kick count 26-14 is something I'll never get over. And some of them were stinkers, and some of them were, that was paid down the other end. Why don't you pay it at our end? It's what happens when you're playing teams that are in the esteem of the umpires, and it's just garbage to watch. And fewer and fewer games each weekend, you'd give the umpiring crew a pass mark on, I think. It's just getting worse.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
We've got some questions. One from Matt. I'm a broken record on this, but surely Wingard will serve us better around the ball and complement the ball-winning mids with a touch of class and the creativity they lack. Watching him sit deepest forward and try to fly for terrible entries is depressing.
Yeah, I'm not sure Wingard enjoys it much either.
No, well, he looked very hurt when people didn't kick it to him. So he's certainly frustrated up there, but I'm of the mind that he has the ability to be able to keep that man back. Like, his potential at scoring goals means that you have to hold back, and that creates space in front of Wingard, which allows Koschitzki and other players to move into that space. Whereas if it's someone else without the mystique of Wingard or the ability to really hurt your opposition, they might set themselves the task of covering whoever it is a little bit further away and keeping the form. Because I thought we broke up the back structure of Melbourne really well with the speed of the movement.
Yes, yeah.
And certainly Wingard moves wonderfully when he has space. He just uses it so well. So eventually he will be fit enough and we'll be able to deploy him in the midfield, and I'm looking forward to that. But I thought he was used well at the weekend. The Big Easy says Wingard seems to be expressing his frustration quite often when not hit up on the lead. Arms in the air, shaking his head very demonstratively. Does anyone else notice this?
Yes.
Absolutely. And it might be something to do with the blonde hair. I don't know. Bredo asks, any chance of seeing CJ or Will Day move to the wing with Bramble? Did the Mystic cleanse? What's the Mystic cleanse, Nick? Do you know about this?
I think it's based on... Brito asks, did the Mystic cleanse remove Max's 22 hoodoo voodoo? Do what? Remind me of the babe. That's a Labyrinth reference, Tiz. I think his luck might have turned around. I mean, do we want to knock on wood with that? I think finally Max Lynch's wretched run with luck might have come to an end and he's smooth sailing from here.
Can we just call him Buzz? And incidentally, he should probably have a buzz cut. I hate that haircut Max Lynch has at the moment.
You hate the haircut. I love the haircut. I'm a big fan. Those long flowing locks when he leaps for the footy. Love it.
It doesn't have it needs a bit of a curl or something. I don't know.
We better get to the first part of Brito's question. Any chance of seeing CJ or Will Day move to the wing with Bramble? Certainly. I think it depends how Bramble comes along. I think, as you mentioned, he was quite out of touch, wasn't he? He'll need to establish himself in the team next week / the week after.
Yeah, well, I can definitely see Will Day moving to the wing. I thought he was fairly good, apart from one glaring moment.
Oh, that'll never happen again. That's a once in a million.
But he'll improve immensely. I actually thought DGB could have been handy because they're a little bit tall for us in the forward line. So we seemed a little bit undermanned.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
Neil has a question about the Hawthorn game plan. He says, Sam's A game looks awesome, but the B game, especially at the end of the game, seems to have some real issues. What was actually happening in those collapses against Sydney and the Saints? How do we get a slow gear to go with that great fast one? That's just a maturity thing. And maturity in the midfield. I thought a few times we rushed our opportunities, especially in front of goal. But those were on mature shoulders, a lot of those things. So, we could definitely have won this game. And although that's on the one hand frustrating, it's also excellent to get as close as we did. Now, I think the game plan's very simple at the moment, but what we need to do is some ball retention and give ourselves a breather, which is why you get things like what happened against Sydney. We were able to slow down the game against Melbourne, and they also slowed down the game against us. They were looking to keep control of possession and deny us and stuff like that, and some of that worked in our favour because we managed to do the counter attack after those periods they had possession. So, I see it as a maturity thing and, the ability to be able to stare down the momentum of the opposition side.
Yeah, I mean, it's only going to develop more and more the more that this list plays under Sam. The ability to control the game and play tempo footy when required. It was another example, this game, of, on some occasions I did feel like the runner would need to get out to them. Just remind them that, guys, you've got the whole game. You've got the rest of the game. You really don't need to, after one attempted switch, just blaze it down the wing and put it on Max Gawn's head. They didn't do it often, to be fair. But, I don't know. Sometimes when they didn't have it on their terms, the Hawks weren't patient enough to work hard enough and let it open up. When Melbourne were cornering us, basically. When they were boxing us in, we didn't really have the maturity to sit with that and work our way through it.
And that's when he told them to run it off the back line, and we saw Dylan Moore go back there to help with that. No, it was clever.
Oh, definitely. When we got going, we were absolutely sensational. It's just those times where Melbourne did effectively shut us in, hem us into the boundary line. I just would have liked a little more patience. But look, overall, very few complaints with this performance. I feel like the team's in a very good spot, and week to week, they're only going to develop. They're only going to give this game plan a little more nuance. Their ability is going to increase in their execution with it. It's an exciting time to be a Hawks fan.
Now, the other game, which kind of felt worse to me, but we were very close to winning this. Casey beat Box Hill at 10-19. That's 29 scoring shots, 79. Defeating Box Hill Hawks 11-6, 17 scoring shots, 72. So we lost by 7 points, but Casey looked to be in control of that game for almost the whole day. And Hawthorn, it got to be said that we had the wind in the final quarter, but we came so strong at them. Goals to Jekka, Sarong, Parsons inside 8 minutes in that last quarter. It wasn't enough, but gee, we had Casey, they were a bit worried.
An undefeated Casey side, much like Melbourne, who did seem dominant for large patches of the game, but nevertheless, Hawthorn came home strong. It wasn't enough, though, with Casey, as you say, by 7 points.
Best on ground was probably Ed Phillips, 31 touches, 14 marks and a goal. That's Tom Phillips' brother. Emerson Jekka as really the lone key forward out there, wasn't he? We had a resting ruckwood forward, but he kicked 3, and he was also very good with his inside 50s. Ned Long had another good performance, 14 touches, 6 tackles. Howe played, even though he most people would think he wouldn't have played after appearing for Hawthorn the day before, but he did, and there were some strange decisions from Howe, but in the main he was fairly good. And Mitchell, which is Seamus Mitchell, and Saunders and Morris were all deployed off the half-back line with varying, varying results.
Varying efficacy.
Morris looked far more comfortable in the back line, but Mitchell and Saunders didn't. They're obviously much happier being forward of the ball.
These are new roles for these guys, especially Seamus Mitchell. Like he came to the club pegged as a goal sneak, so it's a little bit different, I think.
Yeah, and they're really lacking a contested ball winner, and obviously a ruckman at Box Hill. But they've tried to fix that with some new recruits. But yeah, a very good performance, and it'll get a lot easier for the Box Hill boys from here, you'd have to say.
Yeah, I'd say so. They finished the contest plus 22 in disposals, plus 24 in marks, and 7 in tackles, which are all positives, but beaten in a few key areas as well. I mean, as you say, the need for a contested ball winner, we were negative 17 in the contested footy. Minus 28 inside 50s is deeply concerning. Minus 19 in the hit-outs too, minus 10 in clearances. It's clear where the deficiencies of the Box Hill side lie. But as you say, I think it's going to get a little easier from here.
But the rebounding defenders at Box Hill, even though most of them aren't AFL listed, are very good. DeWitt was incredible. So we look ahead to Essendon versus Hawthorn at Marvel Stadium on Saturday at 7:25 p.m. Hopefully Nick's at home, still rugged up.
You're kidding, aren't you? If I'm able to go, I need to look into whether I'm able to. But I will be there if I can.
It'll be interesting to see whether Lewis comes back into the side. Is he going to be fit enough?
Well, that was going to be my question. Probably the big ins that you're looking at potentially are Lewis and CJ. And I guess you watched Box Hill a bit more closely than me. Anything that you saw in that game that would encourage you to make some selections accordingly?
Oh, look, it'd be very hard to drop anyone out of that performance. But there is some talent coming back. It's going to be available. I think Bramble might need some more time in the VFL, but they might just decide to run with him. Let's face it, Essendon are not winning a final this year, and their standards aren't high. Their pressure around the foot is fairly bad. They always lift for Hawthorn, but surely we've got this one, Nick. Hey?
Well, I'm confident. I'm as confident as I can be, because it is Essendon after all, and they always seem to turn in a pretty good performance against us. They do lift. However, for weeks now, we've seen Vision, put under the microscope of this Essendon outfit, and they're just not prepared to work.
They're not going to respond this week, are they? They've had their toes put to the fire every other week. Why would they respond this one? The frustrating thing is, and if you're talking to Bombers fans, you need to tell them this, is that they have all the talent they could possibly need, but none of the endeavour, and that's what makes them a danger game.
If they show up, if they decide to work, that is the key difference, is that they haven't been doing that. If they don't click into gear, if they don't show up, it should be pretty easy for us. If we just get our game going, we'll run them ragged, and that should be the game right there.
Well, their most improved player is their captain, Dyson Heppel. And you know what I think of Dyson Heppel, Nick?
I think you've called him a Dyson. Because he sucks.
Yeah.
Still got it, folks.
Well, I mean, it is definitely lotto off the half-back line whenever Heppel has it. So it could go anywhere. It could land anywhere. Anyway, Numo has the question. With the possible inclusion of Lewis this week, what does our forward line and ruck situation look like for this weekend against the Bombers?
Fuser, following up with a related question, what does our best forward line actually look like with all our players available? Options galore at the moment. I feel like we still need more forward pressure.
Yeah, but look, the Bombers have been terrific at giving it back about 80 metres from goal. So, we'll get rewarded. You put pressure on these half-backs at Essendon as they're trying to break it out. And they do a lot of handball. It's great to watch. We'll be rewarded really well, and you could imagine Wingard will be licking his chops. I'm not sure what the best forward line looks like. I think that's something for Sammy to show me. And obviously David Hale is the forward coach. So I'm looking to see what they have in store for the Bombers, who are low on confidence. Hawk 12 says, if we lose to the Bombers, which I don't really want to think about, and possibly could, let's be honest, will we be devastated, or is it just part of the learning train we're on?
Unacceptable. It's not a development week for Hawthorn. This is a cruise to a comfortable victory week.
Oh, you're not going to trot out the line we've had learnings this week or whatever it is. There's learnings, and I've never heard of that term before, but apparently it's being thrown around.
If we cannot lose to this mob, the amount of footage I've seen of Essendon not putting in and not trying at all, even if they show up, I still think we have their number. I would certainly hope so.
Who's that bloke who was following that ball back to the line and all he had to do was touch it?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember who it was.
He was recruited to the club specifically. And, anyway, the Doro's still there. Is it 23 years now? I can't wait until it gets to the quarter century because Robbo's going to have a conniption, and that will be wonderful to see.
Does he get a letter from the Queen? What happens?
I think the fact is that he's kept a lot of letters, and that's how he keeps his job. But it's certainly not on performance. Now, we did have one side that won in the Hawthorn colours on the weekend, and they did so against their hardest opposition in a month. The Hawthorn VFLW side beat Casey, 7 goals 11-53 to 2 goals 2-14. At one point, it was 2 goals each, wasn't it, Nick? And then Hawthorn just put their foot down and cruised, really. Like, it was just, we were just waiting for them to kick another goal. So it was streak versus streak. Casey had, I think they were top of the ladder, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. They were undefeated heading into this, and we'd won 7 straight. So it was indeed streak versus streak. And the team that reigns supreme at the final siren does what it's done for the past 7 weeks before that. Hawthorn, as you say, Tiz, you spin a wheel. What quarter is it going to be this week? What quarter is it where they're going to come out and just absolutely pump the opposition and slam on the goals? This week it was the third term. And Casey, well, they were held to just 1 behind after quarter time, which is a magnificent effort.
That's huge. The defence in the VFLW for Hawthorn is immense. But it's Tamara Luke up forward who just commands that whole zone. She kicked 3-2 and had 2 goal assists. They did have one serious injury to Zoe Barbakos, who was stretchered from the ground with what we believe is a knee injury. Do we have any more info than that at this stage?
No, don't have any additional info at this stage, but it looked fairly bad. And I mean, it's such a cruel twist of fate for, Zoe, who's an AFLW signee, has a massive opportunity laid before her. And look, it's just one of those things. It's shocking. So we hope it's not terribly severe. We'll update people on our social media channels and see what we hear about Zoe. I just want to go back to Tamara Luke. I think, she's one of my favourite VFLW players, the captain of the side. 3-2 and 2 goal assists. So she had 9 disposals and 7 of them were score involvements. Which is insane. That's just so damaging. I think apart from her, Nadia von Bertouche, she stood tall with 17 touches, game high 11 marks. Nick Garner as well is also prolific with 17 touches herself. Carbone, Mifsud, it's a great team to watch. I mean, especially when they get going and whatever term they decide that they're going to pull the lever and it just causes an avalanche of goals. They're very exciting.
Yeah, Von Bertouche has a bit of a cult figure status down there, doesn't she?
I think so. She's certainly got an aura when she gets the ball. She's just one of those players,
Very dependable.
So there you go, another victory for Hawthorn VFLW, and they sit, I believe, in second at the moment. And wouldn't you know it, I think Essendon sit atop the VFLW ladder, and we don't play them this week, but the following week. So there's a massive marquee blockbuster clash in the near future for the VFLW.
11:30 on a Saturday in a couple of weeks, I think. So, yeah. Well, the club performed pretty well over the weekend. And I noticed we've put the Kennedy Centre out to tender. So something's moving there.
Yeah, people are lining up to throw us bags of cash.
Yeah. What is it? The council's given $5 million. The Liberals are sticking their hand in our pockets. The Labor Party's sticking their hand in our pockets. I mean, yeah, that's right, our pockets. And that's going to the Hawthorn Footy Club and Box Hill. So
I mean, whoever wins, Box Hill wins with the redevelopment of the facilities, and it's good times.
So do you think he'll be well enough to go Nick?
Well, I got to look into whether I'm actually allowed to, in good conscience, attend this game. I think I am, but look, it'll all depend on how I'm feeling within myself too, of course. So if I'm not able to go, and if I'm going to do wrong by myself by trying to get out to Marvel Stadium, notoriously windy and cold environments that they're out there at the Docklands.
Well, we don't win without you there, Nick. I think that's fairly obvious from the result on the weekend. Gunston and Bruce were aware that Nick wasn't present.
You're taking the piss, but I don't care. I'm going to try to be there if I can, lose my voice in a different way on the weekend. That's Marvel Stadium, Saturday, 7th of May. So it's this Saturday night, 7:25 p.m. The VFLW, as we just mentioned, they've got a game against Port Melbourne, the Boroughs, Sunday, 8th of May at 2 p.m. And the same day, out at Windy Hill, it's Essendon hosting Box Hill at 2:10 p.m. And I reckon with all that being said, mate, it might be almost time to give my voice a little bit of a rest. So it's time to wrap up. If you enjoy what we do, hop on to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating or a review. Not only will it make our day, you'll be spreading the word about our show, so helping to get other Hawkers on board. So we'd really appreciate that. You can find us on Twitter as well, at Hawk Talk Pod. Such a supportive community that really lifted my spirits, Tiz, over the past week, and got a bit of a shout out from the Hawks Insiders crew, and had a fair few people tweeting me and sending us DMs on Instagram, all wishing for me to recover and in good time, and it did make a difference. I'm going to say that. I really appreciate that people would take their time out of their day to say stuff like that.
I had a bloke up the local cafe come up to me and go, "Where's the podcast this week? What's going on?"
There's the very reaction I was worried about. I did feel a smidge guilty that we'd taken a week off for the first time in about 5-6 years, but, it is what it is. I needed to, and the way I'm able to even, get by with this short podcast is the fact that I rested, so I think I made the right call. You can join us on Facebook as well, our Facebook family over at facebook.com/HawkTalkPod. And again, we're on Instagram. And finally, a shout out to the proud, passionate and paid up, and indeed patient Patreon subscribers that support our show. It has been a hot minute since our last bonus ep, but being unwell has interfered with our best laid plans, of course. So hang in there. In the meantime, it's your support that does keep us going. You contribute in a big way to making this show what it is. For anyone that would like to join up, all the details are at patreon.com/HawkTalkPod.
So no Connor Nash this week, Nick. What am I going to do? It looks like he's done a quad or a hammy or some kind of strain.
And he's broken your heart.
It's not broken my heart. Nearly broke my shoulder when I nearly walked into him at Glenferrie the other week, though.
No, you're still banging on about that. I know we didn't mention Connor Nash in the outs before in the game preview, but a guy that has transformed into an inside mid and a lockdown role, I do wonder if that maybe has the door open for another debutant. Do you reckon Ned Long is a look-in?
Ooh, yes. Now, that's a very good point. I wouldn't mind seeing that. That could be fun. Ned Long would definitely do well in a physical role against Essendon. I can see that working really well because they're not really into that at the moment. So I'd love to see that.
Well, that's going to be this week's prediction from the Hawk Talk podcast that we leave you with. Another short, sharp edition. It's good to be back, and we will indeed return next week for a recap, as always, of all the action from the weekend. And I'll hopefully see you, and you, Tiz, at the footy.
I'll probably wave to you from a distance, to be honest, Nick. All right.
We are a happy team at Hawthorn.